December 3rd, Sanae Takaichi's latest statement, a carefully packaged deception. Why is the apology a false premise? Just yesterday, on December 3rd, Japan's Sanae Takaichi, who has always presented herself as an iron lady and a rock-hard hawk on China issues, suddenly bowed her head. She publicly stated, "The position has not changed at all, and fully adheres to the 1972 Japan-China joint statement." Many who see this have an initial reaction of disbelief. How is this possible? How could the hawk who, only half a month ago, was calling for the use of the self-defense forces and shouting that a Taiwan contingency is a crisis for Japan's survival, suddenly change her tune? Is she truly scared? If you actually believe she has admitted defeat, you've fallen into the most dangerous trap. This is not a prodigal daughter returning. It is a textbook example of a diplomatic feigned stumble. This is like a cheating partner, caught red-handed, who doesn't swear, "I'll never do it again," but instead pulls out a 30-year-old marriage certificate and points to the text saying, "See? I've always recognized you as my legal spouse. My respect for you has never changed. Do you understand?" Takaichi's current strategy is to use the repeater tactic to conceal the fact of her crossing the line. With her mouth, she recites a 50-year-old document, while under the table, she is constantly testing new bottom lines. This acknowledgement is worthless because she is acknowledging a past legal document, not her present erroneous remarks. What's even more perception-shattering is that this is not just a simple slip of the tongue or a damage control effort. It's a gamble involving the post-World War II international order. A few days ago, she was still citing the Treaty of San Francisco, which has long been relegated to the dustbin of history, to deny Taiwan's sovereign status. Today, she shifts to talking about the joint statement. This flip-flopping between legal Taiwan independence and adhering to commitments in a matter of days is a miraculous case of diplomatic schizophrenia. She is not softening her stance. She is engaged in toothpaste squeezing under intense Chinese diplomatic pressure and economic countermeasures, such as travel warnings. She concedes and retracts little by little, like squeezing toothpaste. So, what exactly has Sanae Takaichi been acting out this past month? Why is Japan gradually hollowing out the foundation of post-World War II peace? What kind of unspeakable military ambitions are hidden behind this alarming political game? Next, we will pull back the curtain and, through a deep review across 4 dimensions, reveal the true face of this fake apology. Chapter 1. From Wild Talk to Crisis. The crossing of the line on November 7th. The story begins on November 7th. In Japan's Diet, Sanae Takaichi made a shocking statement, directly defining a Taiwan contingency as a survival-threatening situation for Japan and claiming the self-defense forces could exercise the right to collective self-defense. The gravity of this statement cannot be overstated. Let's make a cross-comparison. Even the global hegemon, the United States, which has the Taiwan Relations Act, has long maintained strategic ambiguity on the Taiwan issue. Although President Biden has misspoke a few times by saying he would defend Taiwan, the White House has quickly walked back those remarks, emphasizing that the One China policy remains unchanged. Why? Because the U.S. knows that drawing a hard line leaves no room for maneuver and immediately pushes 2 nuclear powers to the brink of war. And Japan? As a defeated nation in World War II, bound by Article 9 of its peace constitution, Takaichi brazenly rushed ahead of her American master, putting the military intervention that even the U.S. dare not state openly directly on the table. This is like a company's security guard drawing a gun and pointing it at a competitor's head before the boss has even decided whether to confront them. Consider the European example. French President Emmanuel Macron, after visiting China, explicitly stated that Europe should not become a vassal of the US and get embroiled in a Taiwan Strait crisis that is not its own. This is a rational voice, based on national interest and world peace considerations. Takaichi's remarks, however, not only deviate from the position of successive Japanese governments, but also directly tie the Japanese people to a military chariot. As Yukio Hatoyama rightly said, this is not about protecting Japan. It is clearly about stirring up a crisis to find an excuse for Japan's military expansion and the breaching of the peace constitution. Chapter 2: The Transmission of Pain, the Economic Countermeasure, on November 14th. In the face of Japan's reckless probing, China did not merely stop at verbal protest. On November 14th, China issued a travel warning, directly citing the deterioration of public order in Japan and the risks posed by Takaichi's remarks. This move can be described as hitting the snake's weakest point. It is crucial to understand that the competition in modern international relations is rarely just ship to ship. More often, it is an economic calculus. Let's look at some comparative data. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Chinese tourists accounted for a significant proportion of inbound visitors to Japan and possessed astonishing spending power. Japan's current economy is mired in yen depreciation and sluggish domestic demand, desperately needing external blood infusion. This is reminiscent of the earlier case with Australia. When the then Morrison government was aggressively pursuing an anti-China path, China implemented countermeasures on Australian products such as wine and barley. The result? The Australian wine industry was devastated, losing its largest export market and struggling to recover for years. Eventually, the new government had to seek a diplomatic thaw, using the same logic when China signals to avoid traveling to Japan. It is not just a safety advisory, it is a heavy blow to the Japanese business and tourism sectors. Japanese politicians can utter inflammatory remarks for votes, but Japanese businesses, hotels, and duty-free shops have to pay the price. This pain rapidly propagates within Japanese society, translating into pressure on the Takaichi government. This is one reason why so many former Japanese prime ministers and mainstream media outlets later criticized Takaichi. Everyone needs to eat, and they can't allow her to smash the bowl. Chapter 3: The Ghost of History, the Illegal Trap, on November 26th. If the previous remarks were radical, then Takaichi's citation of the Treaty of San Francisco on November 26th was vicious. She claimed that Japan had renounced its rights to Taiwan but was not entitled to determine its final status, implying the undetermined status of Taiwan theory. This is a massive historical and legal trap. Why did China react so vehemently? Because it involves the legitimacy of the outcomes of the victory in World War II. We must clarify, the post-World War II international order is built on the foundation of the Cairo Declaration and the Potsdam Proclamation. These documents explicitly stipulate that the Chinese territories stolen by Japan, including Taiwan and the Penghu Islands, must be returned to China. The so-called Treaty of San Francisco was a product of the Cold War era, secretly arranged by the US to prop up Japan against the Soviet Union and China, deliberately excluding China, a major Allied victor. Bringing this up is akin to modern-day Germany suddenly claiming, "Although we lost World War II, I no longer recognize the Nuremberg trials, and the status of certain territories occupied by the Nazis is undetermined." Can you imagine the panic this would cause in Europe? This is equivalent to reopening the case of World War II. By citing this invalid treaty, Takaichi attempts to legally sever the connection between Taiwan and China. This is more insidious than a simple military threat because it seeks to shake the international legal foundation of China's sovereignty over Taiwan. This is why spokesperson Mao Ning was so stern in her rebuttal, emphasizing Article 8 of the Potsdam Proclamation. Chapter 4: The Hypocritical Bow, the Wordplay, on December 3rd. Finally, we arrive at December 3rd. Under pressure both at home and abroad, Sanae Takaichi made her latest statement. But please note, this is absolutely not a concession, it is a carefully packaged deception. What did she say? She said her fundamental position is based on the Japan-China joint statement, and she understands and respects China's position. Sounds good? But the devil is in the details. First, this was a passive response. It was an answer forced under questioning by a Diet member. Second, based on observations by experts like Hu Shijin, She did not personally reiterate the core commitment that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. She merely generally stated that her position has not changed. This is like a Western legal contract trap. In the English context, acknowledge and recognize are worlds apart. The US and Japan often play this word game in their Taiwan-related documents. When Japan says it understands and respects China's position, the subtext is, I know this is what you think, and I respect your opinion, but I never said I agree with you. This is Takaichi's cunning maneuver. She uses the empty concept of position unchanged to placate the pressure from China to make an explicit statement. She has not retracted her earlier survival-threatening situation remarks, nor has she admitted any previous errors. She has merely buried her head in the sand, pretending nothing happened. This toothpaste squeezing, softening lacks any genuine sincerity, reflecting on the month-long farce, from advocating war to manipulating history, and now to this false apology. Sanae Takaichi and the Japanese right-wing forces behind her have sent a dangerous signal to the world. Japan is attempting to break free from the post-war regime and is using the Taiwan issue as a breakthrough point to realize its ambition of becoming a major military power. In this era of high technological interconnectedness and shared destiny, what we advocate for is peace and development. Any attempt to seek self-interest by manufacturing geopolitical tension is a reversal of historical progress. If Japan truly wants to gain the respect of the international community and secure its national safety, there is only one path. Thoroughly abandon the Cold War mentality, stop playing with fire on the Taiwan question, and honestly adhere to the commitments made in the 4 Sino-Japanese political documents. For all of us, it is vital to see through the true faces of these politicians. Do not be deceived by those high-sounding diplomatic terms. Watch their actual actions.